intlx Solutions, founded by engineers, valued for our expertise. Hello everyone, my name is Bill St. Germain, and today I wanted to discuss a recent PSN that was released April 13th, 2026. And this has to do with a break in DRS and a dashboard that will show the Session Manager security module being down. So it looks like we have some issues with certificates, starting with Security Service Pack 18 and later releases. A stricter Java security policy has been introduced. In line with the update, Avaya recommends adding Session Manager management IP address to the SAN fields of the identity certificate used for the management Postgres, SpiritAlias, and Syslog certificate stores. We're going to cover that in this video. There is a second part to this PSN that we're not going to cover, which deals with applying a patch, and Avaya does mention that there is a long-term fix in later releases of Session Manager. First thing I want to do is we'll take a look at the System Manager and Session Manager where you might actually see this problem to help you identify whether you're running into this situation or not. So as mentioned, there's a couple of places we can look to see if you are running into this issue within the System Manager dashboard. The first place we're going to be looking is under Services, Replication, and then we're going to click on our session managers. Now you can see right off the bat mine is synchronized under synchronization status. If you are running into this issue, you may see a state that represents that it is broken or not synchronized. The second place we want to look is under the session manager, then dashboard, and if you are experiencing this issue, you may see that your security module is down. In my case, it is up. I don't believe that it is down on the session manager, so if you were to run smconfig on your session manager console, I don't think you would see that the security module will be down, or StatApp for that matter, but from the management dashboard I believe you would see it would show that it's in a down state because the system manager and session manager probably aren't communicating with each other. So the first step in correcting this issue, and the step that we will be outlining in this video, is to replace your certificates. Let's take a look at those certificates and what they look like before we replace them by navigating to Services, Inventory, Manage Elements, and then click on your Session Manager element, choose More Actions, and then Manage Identity Certificates. The PSN is advising that you place the management IP address of your Session Manager into the SAN field, and as you can see, by default the management IP address is not in the SAN field. The instructions state that the Session Manager management IP address will need to be populated in the SAN field, and if you're unsure what that IP address is, you can find it by navigating back to our Session Manager dashboard. Then the information can be found by either clicking on the link to the Session Manager on your Session Manager dashboard, or following the Session Manager administration, click on your Session Manager instance, and in both cases we click View. Here we can see our management IP address of 1078.2.14, and this is what's going to go into our SAN field of our certificates. Before we get started with renewing certificates, you may want to place your Session Manager into a Deny New Service state to allow for existing calls to bleed off and prevent new calls from establishing. On the Session Manager dashboard, we select the desired Session Manager instance, then choose Service State, Deny New Service. When prompted, choose Confirm. The Session Manager is now in a Deny Service state. With our Session Manager management IP address in hand, it's time to replace certificates as outlined in the PSN. Begin by clicking on our Session Manager element and choose Manage Identity Certificates. There are 4 services in total that we need to replace the certificate for. We'll start with the management by clicking on it and then choose Replace. Below, I choose all of the elements related to my certificate, including common name, key algorithm, key size, DNS name, and lastly, IP address, which I'll populate with my Session Manager's management IP address. Then click Commit. I will then repeat the process for the Postgres, SpiritAlias, and Syslog services. While you're doing this, it's a good idea to refresh your remaining certificates, including Security Module HTTP and Security Module SIP, so that all certificates have the same validity period. Alright, our certificates are renewed, so it's time to reboot the Session Manager. This is done by selecting our Session Manager instance, choosing Shutdown System, Reboot, then Confirm. What I like to do is set up a ping monitor just to check the status and progress of our reboot, and once that comes back up, we will run an openssl command against the management port of the Session Manager to determine whether or not the certificate renewed successfully. Let's run our openssl command to perform an SSL handshake with the management port of our Session Manager. If we scrape the identity certificate that is being presented in the certificate chain and then place it into an SSL reader like certlogic, we can see the details of the certificate. And towards the bottom here, we can see that our SAN field now has the management IP address of your Session Manager. Now, I haven't replaced the certificates on my secondary Session Manager, so let's run the openssl command against it. Then we'll grab our identity certificate, place it into certlogic's certificate reader, and if we scroll towards the bottom, you can see that it does not have the management IP address of the Session Manager in the SAN field, and that makes sense since we haven't replaced the certificates. Lastly, we need to go put our Session Manager back into service. Navigating back to our Session Manager dashboard, choose our Session Manager instance. We can see that it is currently in a Deny New Service state, so we choose Service State, then Accept New Service, followed by Confirm. That completes this video. I hope to see you in the next one. intlx Solutions, empowering people, connecting businesses.